Hey, how you doing? So here I am. I'm going to be talking retrograde again. I'm doing this off the cuff. It's not anything that I prepared for. I have plenty of information that I did actually prepare to do a video with, but because of the weekend I'm having already, I feel like I need to give a little insight on some things where retrograde is involved. So first things first, not everybody believes that the planets affect their behavior, and that's perfectly fine. Um, you can't convince people to understand the things that you have understanding of. The planets were put there to affect life events, right? Um, that it's just part of creation, and eventually we will get into that when when the channels show up and feel that I can convey that properly to you. Um, but Mercury in retrograde simply means misunderstandings. That's it. So when it comes to technology and cars and contracts and stuff like that, things are going to be misunderstood. So the car is going to um, wrongfully receive information, if that makes sense, right? The car is going to be damaged in some way or another, and you're not going to understand why. It'll stop running, oil is messed up, and you just did a oil, like things that just don't make sense will go wrong with the vehicle, right? The contracts, you would think that they've been explained to you properly, you read them over, you feel you've seen every in and out, every nook and cranny, you went through it, crossed your T's, dotted your I's, but something came up that you didn't see, that you didn't notice, or you didn't understand in its true form, right? And then interaction with people. The interaction with people will be misunderstood as well. So you'll say hello to someone and they'll take it like you're in love with them. I mean, I know, ladies, this happens to us like all the time, but I'm talking like circumstances that will cause a big to do. So just be very careful with your interactions and your communications. It's so heavy, like I put my ring on for the video so that I'm not misconveying what I'm trying to get across. I have the ring bringing the energy in because I need positive energy right now. Like I said, my weekend started off a little shifty, and it shouldn't have, because the person that it's shifty with has knowledge, knows how I move, and has a clear understanding. But because the planet is so strong and this retrograde is so strong, mind you, it's still 6 days out. Um, it just affects them completely different, right? Their circumstances takes hold and they just kind of lose it. And we have to be forgiving in those moments. So please, if you have this level of knowledge and you are aware of the retrograde, please give a little leeway to those who aren't, to those who don't believe, or to those who still react in its off behaviors, right? Now, I want to let everyone know that there's things that need to be cleaned up in your cipher. So when you see these things happening, there's going to be moves, there's going to be people gone missing, like not in a bad way, but like just people you're not talking to anymore. People are going to show up that you haven't talked to in so long. All these things serve a purpose, including the car breaking down, the contracts being misunderstood. All these things serve a purpose. That's why they tell you don't engage in them, because you're forcing a purpose. Um, an example would be you sign for a house and you move into this house. It's beautiful, it's your dream house, but there was a clause in there that said if you didn't get something fixed within a certain amount of time, you forfeit the loan, right? But you didn't see that. You missed it, or you understood it as being that's just something you have to get done. You didn't realize it would affect the loan, right? So now time comes, it's not fixed in the time, in the allotted time, and they come to take the house because the loan is forfeit. Now, this puts you in the position to where you have to move out speedily. This happened for a number of reasons. One, no contracts are in retrograde. Two, make sure you read it over, have someone else read it, talk it through, read it again before you sign. And three, when you moved in, when you sign the contract at this particular time, the fact that you're moving out is the purpose that's being served. So you have to move out because this is not the space for you. And it gets so deep. I can't even get into it right now because I do have plans for this conversation to come up when we talk about the birth charts and the planets and all that stuff. So I don't really want to get into it here. What I do want to get into is couples, relationships. If you're in relationships with people and they are acting differently, yes, you can chalk it up to the retrograde, but please understand the retrograde only brings out what was already there. And it's bringing it out, it's bringing it to your attention so that you can see the absolute truth and make a sound decision by the time the retrograde is over. Don't do it during the retrograde, but you can make a sound decision by the time the retrograde is over to decide whether or not this is the situation for you. This does not apply to everybody. Some people, you're in these people's lives for a reason and you're serving a very big purpose. So you have to kind of stick around. You have to kind of deal with the shenanigans that's going on and work them through it. It's not for everybody, and I'm learning that that's not for me. I don't have to stick around and deal with people's energy anymore, right? I served as much as I could. I tolerated as much as I could. Now it's time to clear out. Yes, that could be retrograde talking, but the truth of the matter is this conversation comes up every retrograde. Pay attention to your energy. Pay attention to the energy of others. Pay attention to the frequency of the behavior. If you notice that this behavior is occurring during the retrograde and outside the retrograde, there's a problem. There's a serious problem. If you find that it's occurring only during the retrograde, that means the person is trying to hide this part of themselves. So be mindful. Be very mindful and pay close attention. Now, something that the ethers would love for you to know is that they're communicating really heavy. So the divine is coming through in different ways. It's utilizing music. Now, it's always done this. This is not anything new. This is not a new occurrence. It's always done this. Commercials, television, music, conversations, overhearing conversations, certain little things that people say in their conversation will trigger a download. So really be mindful of what's going on around you because they're communicating, and they're doing so really heavily, and they're doing so in a blatant way. So now it has to be understood. Something that happened to me relative to that is I was having a conversation with a friend, and I literally asked a question, or she was talking about her situation, and everything she was speaking of, a song played on my phone that was relative to it. It was kind of like speaking to what we were talking about, and we peeped it and we laughed about it, right? But then it did it again and then again, and it was just really obvious. So the universe is really trying to tell us which way to go, how to move, how to react, how to feel, help us to understand our interactions with not just ourselves, but with others, and how to really get through them. So please be mindful of these things. Also, take the time out to speak to self, meditate, do a lot of listening. If you're a dreamer and you're having dreams, please write your dreams down. And at the end of the week, preferably on Saturdays, go to those dreams and reread them. And then see if it's relative to your week. If it's not, mark key things that kind of fit in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure they'll be there. Like, they're going to be there. Also, because our dreams are simply a recap of our day, but not, right? So um, write them down. Figure out what your dreams are trying to tell you. There's always a message there. Um, Also, communicate, right? Don't be afraid to say what's on your mind and in your heart. Make sure you're doing so from love. Don't do it from fear. Don't do it out of anger, stress, anxiety, depression. Don't move um, in those traits. Move more so in love, light, joy, happiness. Um, Move in an energy where you're trying to reconcile, where you're trying to make things better, not just for other people, but for you, right? So if I have to explain to somebody, what you're saying to me ain't really working, I don't like it. Normally, I'm like, listen, you better watch who you're talking to. But I'm working on that for me. So I'm saying, like, listen, why that energy? Why are you coming with that? Like, let's simmer down. Like, let's chill. Let's relax. Let's talk about it. I want to talk about it. Um, Sometimes, obviously, that doesn't work. People are going to come at you how they're feeling in that moment. Just try to be very mindful of self. We cannot fix anything outwardly without dealing with it inwardly. So everything that you want other people to fix, you have to make sure it's sound and right within self. So I'm not going to tell you, oh, go out there and abide by the planets and, check your birth chart and do all this other stuff. And I'm not doing it, right? I do it as well. I check my birth chart. I check on how my planets are aligned and how they're going to affect me and what I need to work on before I deal with the world. Because I know me. I know I have very little control when it comes to disrespect. I have very little control when it comes to people who speak condescendingly. I don't tolerate it well. Like, you can't come to me with that energy because I'm me. I don't come to you with that energy. I come with love. I come with respect. I come with light. I come with positive vibes. I'm very uplifting and empowering. So for you to come at me negatively, you want to fight. And I have to protect myself. So I have to be mindful to mind my tongue, mind my mannerisms. And the best way to calm down a raging mind is to soothe it um, with real conversation and love and light. I know I sound all mushy and weird, right? Like, oh, you can't approach everything with love. You can't. This isn't about them. This is about you. This is about how you deal with things. This is about how you love. This is about how you build, right? It's never, ever, ever about how someone else is moving. Um, the reason that is because we can't control other people's behaviors, their reactions, their mannerisms, their energy. We can't control those things. It's all for them to deal with. So we have to work on self. We have to control us, if that makes sense. Um, and finally, I think I'm gonna end it on this. Take time to really, really dive into your highest self. You want to take a moment and have that conversation with what people call God. There's no name for what I have to deal with or for what I um, converse with when I need guidance. It's not a God, it's something else. I'm not sure what it is. I'm looking for a name, I promise. Um, but talk to it, have a conversation with it. You'll know when you're talking to it because it's going to give you knowledge of things that you do not know, and you have no way of knowing, and you have no way of tapping into it, right? Um, when you do this, it's going to bring forth information that's going to guide you on your path. So this is just a simple conversation that I'm having with you guys. It doesn't really have um, any absolute. There's no teaching going on here. It's just a conversation and some insight and an interaction that I'm having with you. I want you all to get through this retrograde with as little conflict as possible. So please start with self. Please make the decision that conflict is not the choice. that you're going to take. Like, you're not going to choose violence, right? You're going to choose silence. You're going to choose to let people deal with light and love how they deal with it. And with that being said, I'm going to clear out. Love and light, rise in power, and peace.